everyone, it's Michael here. Today I quickly want to show you what I got from Elecfreaks recently. It's called the Arcade Pro kit for the MicroBit. And before we dive into the box, let's have a quick look and see what we can do with this device. So you probably know about MakeCode if you have been working with the MicroBit, but the MicroBit programming is not the only thing that the MakeCode website actually does. So if you go and type in MakeCode, and it's actually a Microsoft website, it's the Microsoft MakeCode website, you actually see there are three options that you can choose from. The middle one is the MicroBit one, which I'm sure you are aware of if you have been using the MicroBit. But we also have two options. We have another option about Minecraft education. And then on the left here is the one that we look at today. It's called Arcade. So it's the MakeCode Arcade website. So if we go in here and click on Start Coding, that brings us straight into the MakeCode Arcade editor. And this is very similar to the MicroBit one. So if you want to do a new project on here, we'll just click New Project and we'll just call it Arcade. And as soon as we hit enter, we're into this website where we can make these programs. And this arcade ecosystem or website is all about making two-dimensional games. And while making these games, learning about programming and about computer science. So it's a great way of getting kids interested in programming. And it's in a way very similar to Scratch. But this one is really targeted for this console that you can see on the left here, which is where our simulator is. So if you compare that to the actual physical thing that we looked at before, it's very similar. So you always have these direction buttons. You have an A and a B button, and then you have a reset button and a menu button. Okay, and here is the simulator, and everything that you program, you can try straight away in here in this website. So really, to start with, you don't really need a hardware. But I think bringing this hardware like Elecfreaks have done really provides this extra motivation for the kids to, to get stuck in, do something and have it in their hands and actually try it out. Is something completely different. So I think it's really worth also pursuing that. So let's have a look at this website. Again, there are many commands that you can choose here. You can use blocks, but you can also go to JavaScript or Python if that is what you want to do. This video is not about how to use this website, but let's very quickly put something together to see how something like that would work. So to start with, for example, we can go to Scene and we just set the background of our little game. We can obviously set it to different things. For example, we can draw something, we do colors. We can also go into the gallery where there is maybe already something there. For example, we can choose this great image that someone's already done. So if we choose that as a background with just this one block, when we get started, our game already has a great background. And you might know this from Scratch. Many of these 2D games work with sprites. So sprites are just little graphics that you can move around. It could be a player, it could be an enemy, it could be food, whatever you like to call it. So just to get us going, we'll make a sprite. And in this start block, we'll just say this my sprite, which will just say it's the player. We set it to, again, we can draw something here, or we can choose from some of these pre-made drawings that we have here. In this case, I'm just going to do a little stick man. So if we just draw him here, this is our little guy. And let's give him some legs and some arms. There we go, make that a little bit longer. He seems quite happy. So that's our little figure. We'll make him just as large as the box here. Let's say this is done. So we've created this sprite and we say this is our player. And if you look at the screen here, already he's ready in the middle, a little bit in the air. What we can do here is we can say we want a start position for him. So we say, let's set my sprite to position 0, 0, for example. That moves him all the way to the top left, but we can also kind of go across. And as you can see here, it gives you a bit of a graphic thing to guide you into where you want to put things. So if we say you want to hit in the grass here, then as you can see, there he is now running happily in the grass. Well, he's not running yet, but we'll make him run very soon. So this is our setup. We have a background, we have our player, and of course we create many other things if we like. We can also go into sprite and look here into the effects. We can say set my sprite to stay within the screen. That's quite useful. We don't want him to go off screen because he might just wander off and we don't know where he is. So if we put that in here as well, and this is set to on, that just means if we move him around now, which doesn't work yet, I'll show you in a minute how that works. He will not go off the screen. He will just stop here before exiting the screen. So let's go onto the controller and let's take out this block here, which says move my sprite with the buttons. We can have some extra options here, which we don't need. But this basically is our setup where everything's pretty much done. So because we've put this extra block in to say move him with the buttons, we can now use the buttons and there he is. And there he moves around. Again, we can then say if we press a button, let's say if the A button is pressed, something's supposed to happen. So we, for example, can say we want to have some sound, and there's a whole section about doing sounds and music. So let's do a little melody. That's it. So now if we go and move around, if we press the A button, then we have a little sound. So that's just a really, really quick overview. As you can see, there are many more things they can do with the scene. There's a lot of things, for example, about score, keeping track of how many lives you've got, whether you've lost a life. There is a great multiplayer section, so it's really quite powerful. It's quite motivating and it allows kids to really get going and get creative on the whole thing. What you can also do is you can make this simulator bigger, so you can make it into a big web-based console where you can try out your game pretty much straight away. So now we kind of know what we can do with this. We'll just quickly come out and I'll just show you some of the games that are already been made. So if we go on to some of these block games for this jumpy platformer, this is quite an advanced game. This is quite difficult to make because it's almost like a Super Mario kind of style game. So if we open this, I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. If we make it large as well, you'll see it's very much like Super Mario. So you can run around, you can do little jumps. I can also use the keyboard for this, by the way. If you're on the computer, I can use the left and right and the space bar to do the jumping. And as you can see, also in double jump, you can jump on top of enemies. So this is really quite an advanced thing and it has multiple levels. And if you quickly look at the code for that, you start to appreciate how powerful this can be. So if I just make this very small, you see there is a lot of code that's been written to achieve this kind of game. So this is what's possible, but there is many levels in between and there's a lot of stuff there that keeps kids and adults motivated. So this is what MakeCode Arcade can do, and this is what this Elecfreaks Arcade Pro kit is all about. So let's go back and have a look and see what's inside the box. So we can see that we get a handheld console with a big screen. Also, we get a lanyard attached to this so we don't drop it when we play with it. We also get a little instruction booklet, and also there is USB-C cable in here, which I've already removed. So this cable is for charging the internal battery of this handheld unit. So when we look at the unit in a bit more detail, let's put this aside. We'll start from the top. We can see there is a USB-C connector. That is for charging the internal battery here. So the battery is great because it just means you don't have to worry about changing batteries or the battery is running out. Then we have the connector for the microbit, which we're going to use straight away to stick the microbit in here. So that's quite straightforward. It goes in here and it's quite secure. And then on the right-hand side, we have the on and off switch. If we then look at the front, we have here our direction pad to go left, right, up and down. And on the right hand side, we have our standard button A and button B, as well as a reset button. So this resets the whole game or resets the microbit. And we have a menu button which brings on the game menu for the MakeCode system, if you like. If we look a bit further at the bottom, it has an additional connector which is for JackDAC. I have a different video on JackDAC, so please have a look at that. I'll put a link below into the comments. So you can also put extra hardware on this. So that's quite interesting, and we'll maybe explore that in more detail in another video. And then finally, if we look at the back here, we also have some holes which are actually usable for building block studs. So you can actually put some building blocks at the back here if you wish. Okay, let's switch it on and see what it looks like when we play a game. So I've already downloaded a game to the microbit, one of the sample games that are on the arcade website. So if I switch this on with the button here, it'll power up, it goes straight into the game. You can also see there is a green light, which shows us that the battery is full or it's not too empty. If it goes below 20%, it will show up as red, and you know you have to charge the unit. So we have the direction here. So the character here is a little cat that's running around. I have button speed. There's nothing, but A is a jumping button in this game where we have to collect coins and avoid enemies that are trying to chase me down. So let's see if I can get away from them into a portal, down into the lava, and that's the game over. So I can also show you that there is a reset button. If at any point I press that button, the whole unit and the microbit will restart. And we have this menu button, which brings up the game menu, where you can do things like make a little louder or quieter and brighter and less bright, etc. You probably remember the little sample game that we've made before. We called it Arcade. So if I go back in here, here's our little guy that we can move around. And now we want to really download him to our device so we can play on our actual console. To do that, we need the cable, obviously, and the microbit to download the program to. And then before we hit the download button, we need to go in here and choose our hardware. And when you do that, you see all the different options that you have, all the devices that are out there. And if we scroll down, we look for the Arcade Pro here, we can click it. And now we've basically told the MakeCode website, this is our device. And now we can use the download button to download this to our microbit. So when we hit the download button here, it doesn't actually transfer it straight to the microbit. It tries to save the file, the hex file of this program to your hard drive, and then you can transfer it to your microbit. That really depends a little bit on your browser and how you set it, but initially it will try to save it to your download folder. In this case, in Edge, I can actually say save as, which allows me to choose where I want to save this to. So instead of the downloads, I can actually go all the way to the bottom and choose my microbit, and would just come up as a drive here and save it straight to the microbit. That just saves me an extra step. So this has been transferred now to my microbit. I could also just save it into the downloads folder and then drag it across as a file copy. So now that we've downloaded our little program onto the microbit, we can just slot it in at the top here, switch on the arcade. And here we go. Here's our little game, our little stick man, which we can move around. It's not running off the screen. So that's fantastic. I think the great thing is that the kids can program something and then they can download it into this console and then hold it in their hands and actually play with it. It has a really great motivational effect. Also, to make you aware that Elecfreaks have a range of these devices. So you don't only get the Arcade Pro kit that just come out, you can also purchase a device that's very, very similar to this one. In fact, it's almost identical. The difference, of course, is that for this device that we just looked at, you need a microbit, and this one here has everything built in. So you don't need to stick a microbit in it. You can just switch it on and use it straight away. Apart from that, it's very, very similar. So you have the same buttons, you have the same cross here, menu and reset, power button. So it really is a very similar device. There is a price difference. So I would say if you already have microbits, then this one is going to be your better option because it's cheaper. If you don't have any microbits and you don't intend to get any microbits, then this one is probably the device to use. And there's also a third option. If we also quickly look at this one, so this one is called the MicroBit Retro Arcade. It's the previous model to this one. So this Pro version now has a bigger screen like this one here and has a better body, and it has a built-in battery. But in a sense, it's also similar to this one. So this is the previous version. It's also slightly cheaper. And if we just quickly try this out, if I take the microbit and stick it in here, and if I turn this on at the bottom here, you can see it's pretty much the same game, and you can use it very similarly. But of course, the screen is smaller, the buttons are slightly different, and you don't get the internal battery. You have 3 batteries at the back, which you need to supply yourself. So this kit also needs to be assembled with a few screws. It's not very difficult, but I would say for the small price difference in the 2 devices, I would definitely recommend to go with the new Arcade Pro kit if you're thinking about buying a new device. And the other great thing that you can do with this Arcade Pro and the microbit is to use it as a controller to control your little robot. So I've already downloaded the program here. I'll show you in just a second how I did that. But it's really a great functionality because you can use obviously the navigation and the buttons to control your robot. But you also have this big display here which can be used as instructions, or even to come up with some game that includes the screen here and the buttons and the navigation, as well as a robot in the real world. And I'm quite excited about this. I've got a few ideas and I'm looking forward to trying some of them out. And just to quickly show you how this joystick is programmed, I'll open up the sample here. And as you can see, it has 2 of these because it's using the radio function, which is sending a message from one microbit to the next. If I just quickly close that, we can see a little bit more of the screen. And what I've done is basically on the start, I've set a background just to say, okay, these are the directions we can move the robot. I've set a speed, which I've set to 100, and I've set the radio group, which will send the commands to the microbit that's inside the robot. So then, if we look at the big block here, we have an on-game update every 200 milliseconds. So it basically checks every 200 milliseconds of which buttons are pressed and how the command should be sent to the robot microbit. So here I set the speeds to 0 initially, and then I check whether the up or the down button or the left or the right button of the Arcade Pro are pressed, and then I'll set the speeds accordingly, obviously the y-axis speed or the x-axis speed, either positive or negative. So that kind of gives us the direction the robot moves in, and then at the end I basically send the combination of the x speed and the y speed in a text string to the microbit in the robot, and the microbit in the robot of course receives this command and activates the motors as required. And I've also added some signals. When I press the A or the B button, it kind of sends extra numbers here that can be used to maybe switch another motor or light on or off. So basically we're using, this is a remote control. We're using the buttons that we have on the Arcade Pro, and depending on how they are pressed, we send a radio signal to another microbit, which then drives our robot. Okay, and one more thing that you can do with this Arcade Pro is to use this MicroCode program that's been written for the microbit as a very, very simple way to program the microbit without having to use the MakeCode website. So the idea is that you use something like the Arcade Pro and the microbit to give it into the kids' hands, and they can actually program it without any computer or a tablet straight away. So you could read up on this. I'll just quickly show you what that might look like. So this is obviously in the browser. It also works from the browser to a microbit, and that's one way of using it. So we can go in here, and what you see here is actually a program for the microbit. So each of these lines are events, if you like. So for example, the first one we have here is that if a button press event occurs, and these are the ones that you can choose from. So there's different things that you can choose from. So when a button is pressed, and then we have to define which button do we mean. Do we mean the A button, the B button, the logo, or one of the pins? So we can change this to the A button. Then we want to have something happen. So in this case, we've chosen play a sound, but it could also be show an image or show a number. And then we tell it like what kind of sound to play. And here is giggle and happy, etc. So the options are quite narrow deliberately so that even young kids can easily program this. And we can add more to this, or we can have a second one. Let's do another button press, this time for the B button. Here we can say we want to show a image, and again we can choose our own image that we make up by pressing these buttons. And so now we have two events: A button, play a sound sad, B button, show us this image. And the idea is that ideally this doesn't run in the browser, but this actually runs on our device. And I'll quickly show you how that works with our new Arcade Pro kit. So I've downloaded the MicroCode hex file onto our microbit here. So if I switch on the Arcade Pro here, you see that what we saw on the website before is actually now running on the microbit on our Arcade Pro. So the idea is here that a kid could just take this in the hands and start programming the microbit without actually having to be connected to a computer or a tablet. So as before, if I go into this programming here by pressing A, we see these lines again, and each of these lines are certain events like A button presses and B button presses, and then we basically define what happens when we press this button A. In this case, it should show an image, and then we can choose like what kind of images to show. And the same, it's supposed to play a sound. And for the B button, it's similar. It shows different sad faces and the sad sound. And while this window is open, you can actually try it out straight away. So if we press the A button, we see the happy face. And if we press the B button, we see the sad face and that little sad sound. So this is happening straight away. There's many more things to it. You can also go up to the top and you have more than one page. So you can go to page number 2 and do more programming there. So again, the idea is to have a limited set of commands that you can use on this device to program the microbit straight away without having to be connected to the computer or tablet. And this Arcade Pro is a great device for it because it has a big screen and it's easy to use. So finally, just for me to say, I think it's a great piece of kit. If you're looking to get into the MakeCode Arcade website and making these 2D games, and you want to go beyond the browser and bring it actually into a device, I think from the devices that are out there, this is probably one of the best I've seen so far, especially if you already have the microbits there and you want to use them. So that's where I would recommend this. If you don't have any microbits and just want to use the arcade website, I probably would steer you towards the other Elecfreaks device that we have here, which is essentially the same but without the microbit. But if you have the microbits, then definitely go for this. It's much sturdier than the older version. It also has the built-in battery inside. I think that combined kind of offsets the slightly higher price. I think it only is about $10 more expensive for the new version here, and I would say it's definitely worth the upgrade for that.